Hello, and welcome to the channel. My name is Brandon. I am the designer of Punching Pumpkins, and in today's video I'm going to teach you how to play the game Punching Pumpkins. Now before I go into my explanation, I just want to briefly point out three things I think. Okay, firstly, I want to give a shout out to, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly, but Julia D. Cara, who was the artist for all of the components within the game. And I'm actually going to have a link to her Instagram in the description below, with her permission, of course, because I believe she said that it contains most of her artwork. But anyway, go check that out after this video. Definitely show her some support. She's a great artist, and she was very professional, on time, and just awesome to work with. So I really appreciate her and her contribution to this game. Secondly, the game Punching Pumpkins is on thegamecrafter.com, which will also have a link to it in the description below this video. And I guess, just to be frank, all of my games that I've made thus far have been through thegamecrafter.com, only because it's just easy. It's just, I don't know, it just works out for me. Like, all the components I need are there. The directions to uploading images and whatnot, and rules and all that stuff is pretty simplified. I haven't had too much of a problem working with the Game Crafter, so I just, yeah. And I mean, I'm brand new to this pretty much, right? I don't have an established brand. You know, I'm pretty much an unknown designer at this point, but hopefully in the future I will be known. Okay, and then the third thing. Oh yes, and thirdly, I want to briefly go over why I made Punching Pumpkins in the first place, because, I mean, it seems kind of odd, right? Punching Pumpkins, how does that make any sense? Well, I want to tell you how it makes sense. And I also want to show you the box that I have with me, because I didn't show the box at all during the sections forthcoming. Who the hell says forthcoming? I don't know. I guess I say forthcoming. Whatever. Yeah, nice little box. Comes in a large, for those of you who may know the different sizes of boxes, Punching Pumpkins comes in what is called a large retail box from thegamecrafter.com, but it's not too big. I feel like it's medium, but whatever. Anyway, going back to why I made the game, I'm going to put this as simple as I can. When you were a kid, and you went trick-or-treating, especially in the United States, because I know not every place in the world does this, but if you go trick-or-treating in the United States, sometimes you feel like you just don't have enough candy at the end of the night, right? On Halloween, right? And so that's why you go to party. Well, as you get older, you go to parties, you go to events. I know some religious groups have their own type of trick-or-treating. Woo! Okay. They have their own type of trick-or-treating. So, kids and adults and teenagers and everyone in between, even grandparents, will somehow get candy, right? But there are just some years where, especially as a kid, you just feel like you didn't get enough. You may have gone to the richest neighborhoods that give out the full-length candy bars. Some have even given out money, that's pretty intense, but I don't think that happens anymore, but it has happened in the past. And you're just thinking to yourself, it's not enough candy. 50 pieces, that's not enough. Mom and dad's gonna steal like 5, and then my cousin or older brother and sister are gonna steal like 2 more, and they think I don't know, but I actually do know. So I said, screw it. And this is today now, just me thinking, you know what? How cool would it be if you got a second chance to get more candy? And that's where it all started. Now, the whole thing behind Punching Pumpkins, and I'll show the box again. The whole thing behind this is the story goes that these 3 on the box didn't feel like they had enough candy. Okay, so on their way home, because it was getting dark, obviously, they see a patch of just pumpkins are everywhere, right? And there happens to be candy laying on the ground next to all these pumpkins. So one of them looks inside a pumpkin that's already been smashed open or whatever, and they see all this candy. So they're like, hey, there's probably candy in these other pumpkins, right? So with excitement, they get so excited they just start punching these pumpkins in hopes of getting more candy before they go home. And that's pretty much it. Anyway, The game Punching Pumpkins is a tile placement game in which players optimize different strategies depending on how they play, of course, and the probability that their strategy will work. They utilize these strategies in order to get more candy, otherwise known as points, before other players do. And obviously whoever has the most points wins the game. And that's the basis of Punching Pumpkins. So without further ado, let's get to how to play the game. Alright, so we're going to start with setup. Pretty simple, get all the components out of the box, get the game board in the middle of the table so that way everyone can reach it, because obviously most of the time you're going to be pulling tiles from this area, punch tokens from this area, and pumpkin tokens from this area, and you're going to be utilizing the 6x4 grid as shown here. So again, have all the components out, and from there I'm kind of going out of order just because I want this to be as quick as possible. Let's go with the punch tokens. They're a little flimsy, a little thin, but you know, gotta do what you gotta do. I don't have nails, so it's gonna be a little more difficult for me to pick these up quickly. But anyway, you take these tokens and you shuffle them as best as possible, because they're not always going to guarantee success. Some of them are failures, and I'll get into that in a minute, or actually in a few minutes. So anyway, you shuffle them and then you put them in the area over here. I'm just doing this quickly, but ideally you would want, 5, 5, 5, because there are 15 of them, and you want it as random as possible. More randomness, more fun, obviously. Okay, so we have the punch tokens over here. Pumpkin tokens, pretty simple. I mean, they go right here. It's a little designated area. You just put them however you want, stack them. I mean, it's whatever you want to do, however you want to make it look cool. Okay, and then we have the player markers right here. Pretty important. This is a 2 to 4 player game. So in this case, we're going to say that all 4 players are playing. And you would simply hand each player one color of these markers, and they'd get all the markers, obviously. They would then take one marker of each color that represents themselves and put them on the 0 spot at the beginning of the score pad, because no one has points yet. Okay, lastly, for the setup, we're going to use all of these tiles. Now, even though you would think, well, why do we need so many tiles if there's going to be 2 players or 3 players? I'll get to that. But for now, just take all these tiles, shuffle them however you want. I mean, this is just for the video. Obviously a bad shuffle, whatever. Then you put them over here in these stacks. Try to make them as even as possible, of course, but for the video, I'm just doing whatever. Once you have the board like this, then, depending on the first player, and you determine whoever the first player is by whoever actually touched a pumpkin last. But whoever the first player is, starting with them, everyone will take exactly one tile for their hand. I'll just say that's one player, and then another player is like, oh, I want to take from all 3 stacks. Why not? So that way, every player will have 3 tiles in their hand before the game starts. And that is the game setup. Now let's go into the actual gameplay and how a turn works. So for our purposes here, we're gonna say that purple will own this hand, and move this over. We'll say green will own this hand right here. So let's say green is the first player. They were the last ones to touch a pumpkin, and they only have +1s. It's a pretty boring hand. That's fine. For purple, they have a very lively hand, very good hand. So it's good for them. Anyway, green is the first player. There's simply one rule that we must adhere by when placing the exact first tile of the game. And that is, you can only place the first tile of the game on the outskirts or on the edge areas or spots, spaces, whatever you want to call them, of the grid. So you cannot place a tile in the middle 8 spots of the grid. No, can't do that. It breaks the game. In this case, because green has all the same, they actually don't want to be the first player. So the other option they can do, and this is an option for all players afterward anyway, is they can take any one of these face down and they say, you know what, I don't want to place a tile. I'm going to toss this tile away. I'm not going to use it. Instead, because I tossed that tile away, I'm going to take a pumpkin token for myself, because I'm green, and I'm going to take another tile because I have to replenish my hand. That is the rule. And, ooh, they got a different tile this time around. Good for them. So, effectively, green didn't become the first player to put down a tile. Now let's say purple goes next, and purple's like, psh, whatever, dude. I can put down a tile right away, that's fine. So this is legal. Once you put down a tile, you must claim it with one of your player markers. Alright, and then after that, you gotta take a tile to replenish your hand, and they got just a +1, so now their hand is has all variations of a pumpkin tile, which is good for them. And that's their turn. So that's how a turn works. You either place a tile, or you discard to get a pumpkin token. Now, one thing I need to mention before I move on is when you do place a tile after the first tile has been placed, in this scenario, it's at the bottom left of the grid, each tile from that point onward must be placed next to an existing tile and cannot be placed diagonally. So let me show you what is not appropriate. You cannot do that. That is not a legal move. From this point onward, the next player has to place a tile here or here and build off of that. And that's basically how you take a turn. All right, let's get into how we score, how we actually get points, because this is very important. This is half of the game pretty much. For instance, let's say, whoops, not that one. Let's say green did place theirs there, and this is a 4-player game now. Let's say red said I wanted to claim that one, and yellow is going to be the 4th player, and they're actually going to place their tile right there. When yellow decides to do this on, oh, not right there, but right here. When yellow decides to do this on their turn, before they even place this, they're going to notice that by placing this tile in this area right here, they are completing a 2x2 grid. And that's when one of these punch tokens, grab 2, must come out, and it's going to be placed in the middle of these 4 tiles. Now before they do that, you might as well flip it up to see what it is. In this case, it's a success, which is good for everybody. So in that case, everyone will take their tile and flip it face up and score according to the tile, according to their tile that they claimed. So let's just do this. Yellow said that was going to be their tile. It's going to be their tile. So much fun when it's just one person doing this. Okay, so now it's going to look like this. Let's get this over here. Boom. So in this case, excuse me, move my chair. In this case, purple is going to get +2 points, green and red are going to get +1 point, and yellow, since they don't have a pumpkin token in their inventory, is going to receive a pumpkin token, which I'll put somewhere over there. So let's do that. So +2, and these ones a +1, and a +1. And that's how you would score. From here on out, you'll notice in the rule booklet, a scoring occurs whenever there is a completed 2x2 grid of pumpkin tiles. So once these 2 get placed down, another pumpkin token would come over here and score these ones as well, and these ones that are flipped up. So in this case, let's say it was green and purple, right? Green and purple. Say green claimed this one, purple claimed this one, green went first, purple's like, you know what? Let's score again. Why not? Let's help these guys out. Sure. So purple's like, I'm gonna go here. What's this one? Oh, it's another smiley. That's good. So you flip both these up. Okay. Now in this case, purple doesn't have a pumpkin token yet in their inventory, so I'm just gonna leave that there for them. Green moves up 1 along with red, so both the 2. And now yellow gets a second pumpkin token. Or not. That's up to them. See, the cool thing about pumpkin tokens, and I'm just going to explain this now because they have a variety of uses. They have 3 uses. The first use is what we're going to see right here, is where you can discard one of these pumpkin tokens, if you have it in your inventory, of course. You can put it back to the pile and get yourself +4. Pretty big, right? Or let's say they didn't want to do that. They're like, you know what? I like holding on to pumpkin tokens because they're hard to come by. So let's put that back in their make-believe inventory over there. Because they're getting scored again, they can take another pumpkin token. And I should point out that a player is only allowed 2 pumpkin tokens per, I guess, at any time, right? So the second way that these pumpkin tokens are used, and I can't show you the case here yet, but let's say the game ends. Okay, let's put you right at 17. So let's say the game ends somehow, red got to 20 before anybody else. And at that point, the only person who has anything in their inventory is yellow. Yellow's like, I have 2 pumpkin tokens that I'm going to put back to the pile because they're worth 2 points each. So actually, yellow would be off the score pad with 21 points. Yellow would be the winner. So that is the second case in which pumpkin tokens are used. The third case, which I'll just point out now. Oh, I got lucky. Okay, the third case is, let's set this back up. Let's just put everybody back at 0. Why not? Let's use this one. Let's say that didn't happen. Let's put these back like this. Oh, but they're both still claimed by purple and green. And remember, green has a pumpkin token in their inventory, so this is going to work out perfectly. So let's say green put that there, and purple was like, you know what, I'm going to close this off. Let's score again. Let's see if we can get a score. So they take a pumpkin or a punch token from the pile, and they're like, oh no, we can't score. Boo-hoo, what a waste of a tile. But not really, not for green anyway. Green is like, you know what, I actually want to score, even though I'm not supposed to right now. They would take their pumpkin token from their inventory, put it back, and say, screw you guys, I'm going to score my tile. Boom, +1. And that is how pumpkin tokens are used. I love how I joined the two of scoring and using the pumpkin tile all in one. I decided to get it out of the way now because it can be confusing. So just to recap on pumpkin tokens, actually I should recap on scoring. Scoring only occurs when a 2x2 is, excuse me, when 2x2 tiles are together, just like that. Of course, the last person to put their tile to complete that grid takes a punch token, flips it face up. If it's happy and green like this, then everyone gets scored. If it's sad and purple like this, then no one gets a score, unless a person has a pumpkin token. Recap on pumpkin tokens. You can get a pumpkin token by scoring a pumpkin tile with the pumpkin token on it. Or whatever, make believe. Or if you have one already, you can discard it when a pumpkin token tile is turned face up for 4 points. Or you can use a pumpkin token again to flip up your tile when it's a sad pumpkin, the sad punch token failure, basically. And you say, you know what, I actually want to score. Or at the end of the game, if you have 1 or 2 pumpkin tokens, you can put them both back for 2 and 4 points. You know, if you have 2. Yeah, it's pretty much that covers all my bases for scoring and pumpkin tokens all in one. There you go. Okay, now we're gonna go to game end and how a game is supposed to end. So I'm gonna move all this stuff so you can kind of see what it did there. Keep that nice and neat. Let's just say, and all right, I'm not gonna. It's too many tiles to put out. Let's just be silly. Okay. Okay, so put that back. There are 3 things. Sorry, I like being organized. There are 3 ways, 3 events in which trigger a game end. The first one, and the most common one, is going to be this entire grid is full of pumpkin tiles, right? So, you know, there's probably a few left back in the source pile here, but they're all filled in this grid. So that you can't put one like over here. You can't be like, you can't do that. It doesn't make any sense because, you know, it's in the score path. And you can't go off the board because that also doesn't make any sense. So once this grid is full, then the game ends. Whoever's leading, let's say it looked like this. Purple would win in that case, right? Okay, so that's the first way a game ends. Let's put that back. I don't care, leave that. The second way a game ends is if, in this case in a 4-player game, let's say green got up here, those 2 got up here, okay. On one of the scorings, purple got an extra point and got to 20. You'll notice that on the score pad, the 10, the 15, and the 20 marks are colored orange. That means that's an indication to stop the game. In a 2-player game, let's take those 2 out of there. Let's say it was between red and green. In a 2-player game, let's say they're both right here, and somehow they score, and somehow green only gets 1 point. Okay, they got on to 10, that means the game ends. You're done. If it's a 3-player game, and yellow somehow won on 15, then the game ends, right? That's just how it is. So that's the second way a game ends. Again, it's dependent on how many people are playing. In a 2-player game, it's to 10. On a 3-player game, it's to 15. And on a 4-player game, which is most fun in my opinion, it's to 20. And last thing I want to point out, when a game ends, again, these little tokens are worth 2 points. So let's say, for example, let's say green got to 20, but yellow had a pumpkin token, just 1, and they're like, well, that's okay that you ended the game because I'm gonna win. I get +2, boom, at 21, which is not represented on the board obviously, but they still win. I actually had to make a second recording because I forgot the third way the game ends. I misspoke, so let me just clarify on the third way a game ends. The third way a game can end is for whatever reason a player doesn't have enough of these markers to place on a tile to claim it. At that point, as I throw things around, at that point it's whoever is in the lead is the winner. And it's as simple as that. One last thing I need to point out is that everything that I've explained here is in the rule booklet like this. I've never used this type of pamphlet. I think it's a pamphlet, but I've never used this type before, so I'm very new to this. But what I've done is for these rules, I've numbered the panels 1 through 6, so that way you can read them in that order, and they are much more detailed than what I showed here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's how you play Punching Pumpkins.